Hello guys, welcome to CloudVi. Today I'm going to discuss how to prepare for AWS Certified Database Specialty exam. Okay, I will be discussing mostly in these 4 areas. I'll be first showing you the exam guide, and then what are the sections of these exams and how the questions will be coming. And then I'll be discussing also the source of the study or the preparations, which are the source I have taken for this particular certification exam. And then I'll be go through the each and every portions of the topics, like in the individual database levels, and which are the important portions you have to read and understand, or where the lab is required to pass this certifications. And in the step 4 I am also going to discuss my personal experience and the exam tips. So let's just proceed. Okay, the first thing, any kind of this AWS exam will start with this downloading the exam guide. This is the section this should be the first page. It will be having the download the exam guide, download the sample questions, and then so I'll go to the downloading the exam guide sections. So you can see that the recommended AWS knowledge, it says that a minimum of 5 years experience with common database technologies. This is very important, I believe, because some of the questions you might get which is totally they will try to puzzle you, because you don't have any idea what is the question, something like the error code, something like which you don't have any hands on these things, or you never ever encountered. So here the database knowledge is important. So I believe the maybe the 5 years may not be needed, but at least a handsome years of experience will be needed for appearing this exam and to pass it. I'm not saying it is at most important, but I feel this is going to be beneficial for you, somebody having this experience. Now come to that, at least 2 years of hands-on experience on the working on AWS. This is normal because this is a specialty exam. This is quite hardcore technical exams, and it is expected that a person who is already having experience in AWS, at least he has appeared and at least few associate exam before coming into this specialty exam. So now coming to the exam content, it is multiple choice. I believe most of the questions, 40 at least 35 to 40 questions comes in a you have to choose only a single out of 4, but few questions like that you have to choose 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 6. So they are a little bit tricky, but this is at least 2/3, I believe 2/3 of the questions you have to choose a single one out of 4. Now come to the domain. These are the 5 domains they are having. The first domain is super important. This is workload specific database design, which consists of 26%. So you might expect something 17 to 18 questions come from this domain, and this is very comprehensive, very in detail. So I have seen that even most of the guys, even me, I have struggled to get having the very good one, like more than 75%, which is the passing mark on this particular domain. So you have to be put a lot of stress on this particular domain. Now come to the domain 2, deployment and migrations. I believe, this is my personal opinion, this is quite a easy one, because questions are very straightforward, and if you do some kind of labs, like if you have done any kind of lab yourself, so this will be quite easy. This domain is deployment and migrations, is very straightforward. Questions are not that tricky, and you try to score as much as possible from this domain. Now come to the domain 3. This is management and operations. The management and operations mostly about this maintenance tasks, backup and restore strategies, manage and operation environment on database solutions. I'd say this is a kind of a 50-50. Most of the questions are straightforward, like from the backup and restores. If you have tried and yourself some creating a database and doing some kind of backup, offline backup, manual backups, try to restore these things in a multiple scenarios, like what happens with a multi-AZ, what happened with the multi-region, what happened with the read replica. So you should be good on that. But there are a lot of tricky questions can come from this domain. Now coming from the domain 4, monitoring and troubleshooting. I believe this is also a little bit tricky because there are a lot of questions. Sometimes they will say what is the error code, what is the error code, how you can troubleshoot. There are different scenario based questions, so hands-on or kind of a deep knowledge would be required to crack the questions. But monitoring sections, I'll say they're a little bit straightforward, because either some kind of tools, CloudTrail, CloudWatch, or contributor insights, or this kind of tool, they will mostly refer to kind of a tools, and you have to be aware of which tool you use where, what is the benefits of using these tools. Troubleshooting sections is a little bit tricky. In the actual questions, actual exam, I had a few troubleshooting questions which I didn't have much clue, but I utilize my prior knowledge and try to guess it. I am not sure what happens with the end results, but some of the troubleshooting questions are very tricky. Now comes to from the database security. I said this is something quite easy for me, because I already had the I achieved the certifications of the security specialty. So security portions is much easy. It's mostly come from the KMS, what kind of KMS, which if you share some kind of snapshot from one person to another person, what will happen, one region to another region, then SSM and security and the secret managers. Mostly these questions come from this database security in between this section. So this section is not that much tricky on my opinion, but definitely you have to have some kind of knowledge. Sometimes they will try to trick you some kind of IAM rules, and will say that whether it will work or not, all these things. So on the next section, we have already discussed about the exam guide. Now comes to the preparation. Now this is a big deal. This is one of the newest certifications AWS announced. It was last year, previous year it was a beta. So somewhere just before the pandemic started, it was released for as a normal certifications. And when I started my preparations, somewhere April, I didn't find any relevant course, real course work, or some kind of help, some kind of course which we can find in Udemy or some other things. There is a few days ago there was a course has been released in Udemy. I really don't know what is the how good is that. Then I find there is one very good preparation source which comes from AWS itself. So this is something I am referring. This is something, if you log into your AWS training account, the same way you go into the certifications, and there is something called learning library, and I found out there is a very good course, though it is little bit elaborative, it's little bit comprehensive, and way and above about the course requirement, but this is something a kind of a Bible. So this is said about the exam readiness, AWS certified database specialty. So if you see that, if you just go through that, okay, this is about the whole course. It is they have given this the domain-wise everything. So I have gone through this course I'll say at least 2 or 3 times. I have not read everything, but I have at least gone through the contents. There are different kind of contents. So if I'll go through that, this is there is a course introductions is there, then exam overview and the test taking strategies. They will discuss about the strategies, what kind of strategies you can take it. There is a video also there, and then the started with the domain specific. Now I'll encourage you to go through with that. You understand what kind of details AWS is providing here. I believe this, for this exam, you have to be very good in Amazon Aurora, Amazon DynamoDB. So this is their AWS in-house database, and without knowing these databases you cannot pass this exam. I will also add most of the questions you will find either from AWS like RDS MySQL, and then RDS and then Aurora MySQLs, or RDS Postgre to the Aurora Postgre. For these sections, most of the questions, hardly you will get any question from the Oracle, RDS Oracle, or RDS IBM DB2, or RDS SQL servers. Most of the questions comes from either from RDS MySQL or RDS PostgreSQL, and this is also valid for DynamoDB, and there are lots of questions comes from the DynamoDB side. So you have to be in very detail about this Aurora, DynamoDB, and the RDS MySQL and the Postgres sections. Now comes to the other database. I didn't have any question from the QLDB. Neptune is a big, at least I can remember at least more than 5 questions comes from the Neptune. So so this non-relation and graph database, it looks like that AWS putting more emphasis on that, and there are lots of questions coming from the Neptune. ElastiCache, questions are coming from Redis, not from Memcache, because Memcache is kind of a they are not they are promoting a Redis. It's Redis the new generation's ElastiCache, so questions are coming more from the Redis, not from the Memcache. DocumentDB, as I said, I had only 1 or 2 questions, if I remember, from the DocumentDB, but very basic. What is the purpose of the DocumentDB and this kind of stuffs. And now about the Redshift. Yes, there are some questions come from Redshifts as well. Not in very details. I'll say there is some, there are other questions. What is the purpose of the Redshifts? Some Redshift backups, availabilities, scalability, what kind of how we can put the things in the Redshift, this kind of questions. So I'll be discussing the individual case in detail later. So now go through with that. So this is a detailed thing. This is having videos, this is having classroom training, this is having blogs. It takes a little bit of time to go through everything. And what I'll say that go through everything, maybe there are some blogs which is highly technical, so you may not get questions from it, but it's not only from the exam point of view, from your own knowledge point of view, this exam readiness is awesome. And try to take small notes whenever you will find is something very interesting. Try to take small notes on that, like some of the white papers are very good. They are also, if you go through with that, you don't have to read any additional white papers or additionals, I'll say FAQs. I only go through it, I only read those white papers and the FAQs mentioned here. I did not read anything additionals. So on that point of view, I'll say this is kind of a superset of my entire preparation, but this is huge. It will take some time for you. So now from the actual preparation, this is from the actual preparations, I'll say that you will start from the AWS documentation itself. Since there are this exam is quite technical, and there are some inner core database questions will be asked. So I'll say you'll start from the actual documentations, and you'll go by the case to and we'll discuss by the individual database level. Okay, I'll start my discussion with the RDS. RDS is a huge topic. That RDS is a huge topic. So if you'll open this Amazon RDS user guide, so most of the questions, you can expect the questions, the variety of questions can come. Most of the important things, I'll say they will try to trick you, like the few things, like is your database is in multi-AZ, is it multi-region, is it red replica is there? Then they will differentiate, they will trick you that is it a RDS MySQL, is it a RDS PostgreSQL, is it a Aurora, is it a then they will create some kind of confusions and try to puzzle you. So I am having I'll just try to show you this one table which from the Oracle from the AWS documentations, and I will encourage you to go through that. So this is about Amazon RDS RAID replicas. I will find out this one particular table. This is very, very important. Just go through that. You may or may not get the question directly, but you will have an understanding, because many times they will try to trick you. Maybe some questions you don't have a positive answer or definite answer, but you can take a approach of eliminations or pick the wrong answer. Like one question you get it that like the RAID replica, which is a synchronous replication, so you can pick it immediately. Okay, RAID replica is asynchronous replication, so it is the wrong answer. So this portion is very, very important. Another thing, you can add few of the stuffs, like if you can create a chart of yourself or table of yourself, you can add few of the stuffs. Like there is a differentiations and a little bit differentiation for AWS MySQL and RDS Postgres. Like for MySQL and MariaDB, you can, after delete of the primary instance, read replica is still active and continue accepting read traffic. But for the PostgreSQL, it is not the case. After deletions of the primary instance, all the read replica will be promoted to standalone database and accept the read and write traffic. So these kind of things. Another thing for MySQL and MariaDB, there is something called there is a setting in the parameter setting where you can put the read replica is 0, so that you can act as a normal instance, and you can do some kind of indexing, or so it won't affect to the primary. And so this kind of testing you can do that. Some questions can come that what is the least effort you can do that for MariaDB or for the MySQLs. So this differentiation, this is small differentiation. If you can write down in a table or in Excel sheets or in a piece of papers, it will be beneficial for you. Now log into the console. I'll show you from there, so you can have a better understanding and what you should practice and what you should read. Now this is the DB instance. So if I'll just go to the create database, I'm not going to create a database, I'm just actually showing you. If I'll show the MySQL, so whatever, if I'll show this productions, so first of all, the storage, what kind of storage I am going to use. The difference between when we have to use that IOPS, when I have to use that general purpose SSD, and then provision IOPS for allocating storage. What will be the allocating storage, how the storage can be increased. That for the RDS we cannot really decrease the things because of the high watermark. The provision IOPS, sometimes they will trick you that for I have some kind of maybe 5.5 terabyte of loads, which I want to migrate from my in-house to RDS, and I need some kind of 8,000 IOPS in the morning and 10,000 IOPS in the night. What kind of storage, what kind of solutions I am going to take? So you have to understand that for RDS you can change your provision IOPS whatever you want, and what is the way to increase it. Are you going to use these EC2 machines, or I am going to use the RDS? So there are some kind of, if your IOPS requirement is very high, then which case you can use the EC2 machine, in which case you should stick into the RDS. So you have to know that. Then for coming from the auto scaling, when we require the auto scaling, what is the benefit of auto scaling? Sometimes they can ask you that okay, I got a storage full alert, so how we can determine, maybe I can put some kind of CloudWatch alert, and I can put my RDS database in the enable storage auto scaling mode and all these things. Then the availability and durability, this is very important. Multi-AZ deployment. What is multi-AZ? Multi-AZ, that multi-AZ mostly used for redundancy and eliminate IO freeze, like for the backup purpose. What is the benefit of the multi-AZ? And then this kind of things is very important. Like in a VPC, you definitely you have to put in the VPC, what VPC will there, what is the additional connectivities, configurations, subnet groups. Then you know that your database port, if you when you put your database port, and if the publicly accessible or not, like what should be the inbound security groups rule should be there for the database port. It should be allowed in the inbound security groups. Now for the database authentication, password authentication is a default. Can you use that password and IAM database authentication? The IAM database authentication, you have to create a authenticate auth token, which is applicable for RDS MySQL and PostgreSQL. So what is the benefit of that? Sometimes they will told you, yes, I don't want to create the password for everybody. That should be authentication should be only valid for 15 minutes. So I need some kind of temporary solution for them. So that sense you have to choose this IAM database authentication. And then additional configurations, like this portions is very important, that parameter groups. We know that default parameter groups is created, so you cannot change really the parameters of the default parameter groups. You have to create a custom parameter groups, and you have to change there. So there are two type of parameters. One is static parameters, one is dynamic parameters. So static parameters, you have to have a manual reboot, and the automatic for the dynamic parameters, changes implemented automatic basis. Option groups, some of this for Oracle and SQL Server 3D, you have to use the option group. What time you have to use the option group. Okay, I also forget to mention the parameter groups. Sometimes the SSL in transit, we have to use the parameter group a lot. Some of the database we have to use change in the parameter groups for transit encryptions. Like the backup. Enable automatic backups. The enable automatic backups are required for RAID replica. It is required for PITR. And if you disable the automatic backups, what will happen? What is the backup retention period? Then enable encryptions. Either you can key a ARN, or you can use the default encryptions. Then comes to the enhanced monitoring. What is the difference between enhanced monitoring? That you can get a less granularity, like mostly in the normal monitoring is 60 seconds. So here you can get the even 1 second also granularity, you can get it. Now if for log export, these three kind of logs are there. Mostly you can get it in a CloudWatch log. You don't have to go through the each and every logs. At least I did not get any kind of question from each and every log, what kind of logs are there, but how you can promote the logs to the CloudWatch logs and all these things, these questions can easily comes. Now for the maintenance, this is very interesting things, because I got a question, I remember, about this minor version upgrade. What will happen in the minor version upgrade? What is the really difference between minor version upgrade and the major upgrade? Something like that. Maintenance window is very easy. You can choose default maintenance. You can choose yourself. Sometimes for very critical production database, you have to choose your own maintenance, so that things will happen as your own wish. And then the deletion protection is the enable deletion protection things comes, so that anybody could not delete your database if this deletion protection is on. So this, I believe, reading these portions would be very Herculean task if you won't do a lab. So I'll encourage, go through a lab, create some databases. If you are not actually working at your office, create databases, create a RAID replica from there, multi-AZ database, and do some kind of failover. Promote the RAID replica into the masters. Just try to delete the try to delete the database with the RAID replica. What will happen? This kind of stuffs you will do that. So you will have a very good understanding, and lots and lots of questions will be coming from these portions. Now I just want to emphasize a little bit more about this RDS logs and monitoring portions, because you might get at least 3 or 4 questions from these portions. Like there are different kind of logs are there, like alert log for Oracle, listener logs, error logs for SQL Server, MariaDB, MySQL, upgrade log for PostgreSQL, like etc. etc. The mostly that most of the logs when we can promote into the CloudWatch, the logs never expire. So and then there are some RDS database logs that also can be accessed by the RDS console, CLI, and API. And then for the transaction logs that could not be accessed. And then there is, and for the monitoring portions, these three sections will be very interesting. One for the enhanced monitoring, and I already discussed there are some definitely real-time OS level metrics. You can get it from the enhanced monitoring. And then there is another thing is called RDS Performance Insights. RDS Performance Insights, mostly the questions will come, it's like a kind of a tool, like like Enterprise Manager or some kind of graphical tools. You can get some visual dashboard. They will be telling a scenario where everything is running slow. You can getting some kind of weights, particular weights, and from the visual dashboard you can get it that the insights about the weights, like what happening. So it's just kind of a graphical tool, and the questions won't be very much detail in there, but you have to understand in which cases I should use this performance insights. And sometimes you may get another tool is very important. Is mostly for I believe this comes from the .NET and the SQL Server level. I did not have this question, but these questions may come. This is called the tool called CloudWatch Application Insights. It's mostly for it also supports the DynamoDB tables and the cloud, some of the CloudWatch stuffs. But I believe this most of the time if the question comes, it will, if it's a direct hint that if they say that this will be used in RDS SQL Server. So this is about all the RDS. Well, now let's discuss about Amazon Aurora. Amazon Aurora is the most important topic as per my opinion for this certification exam, and you can expect tons of questions from Amazon Aurora. Now the good thing is about there is a lot of similarity in between Amazon Aurora and RDS MySQLs and PostgreSQLs, because Amazon Aurora is kind of a Amazon in-house version of the MySQL and the PostgreSQL. So I will only discuss about the difference of what is the uniqueness of Amazon Aurora, and not the similarities. Now comes with these things, the main things they will try to judge you the Amazon architecture, high availability. Like this is a kind of a like this is a quorum model about this particular things, that the shared storage volume, there is a reader endpoint, there is a writer endpoints, and there could be some custom endpoints. So they might say that for replicas or from some they will using some higher instances for some kind of analytical works, how they can point it out. So you have to use a custom endpoint, some kind of steps. And then definitely that RTO and RPO, it is very important for the Aurora architecture. You have to understand what is the RTO and RPO for specific cases, like if you have running instance and there is a replica is there, what is the failover timing, failover to the new instance if the replicas are not present, and then what is how this Aurora the backup is different than the RDS backups, how it is how the patching time it will be zeroed down due to this particular Aurora architectures, some kind of things. Now mostly the Aurora questions will be focusing from the migration from RDS MySQL or PostgreSQL to the Aurora, and they will that the migrations can be possible in the multiple ways through the snapshot, then MySQL dump, and then they will mostly interested or questions will be mostly specific to this creating that Aurora replica and then promote it to that, because this is the easiest way. So they will give you some scenario that a customer wants to migrate from RDS MySQL to the Aurora MySQL with the least amount of time with this or least amount of downtime, and what they will do that. So there is a sections here from the migrating from MySQL DB instance to the Aurora. Please go through that. Both the scenario is well explained here, migrating this RDS MySQL to snapshot to Aurora, and the migrating from a MySQL DB instance to the Aurora MySQL using a red replica. And like if I'll discuss something with the console here, it's the same steps. So only the difference is that the database location, if they will be asking some, that could be question from the global database definitely. So they will create some scenarios, because the client wants to connect from different cities, different regions, and all these things. Definitely questions will come from the serverless, and here also they will give you some scenario that mostly the buzzwords will be like unpredictable workloads. So if you will get a buzzwords like unpredictable workloads, and maybe it will be work, maybe there will be scenario like the load is at 8 a.m. something like that, 8 p.m. 12 p.m. something, it 10 times. So you understand this is unpredictable workloads, and you have to choose your option accordingly. Okay. Most of the other things here it's common. So what is unique here in this, I already said about the serverless. Then there could be some questions about the Aurora multi-master, and then some of the reliability features. Reliability feature means okay. Now the important points about this managing an Aurora DB clusters, like mostly about the adding Aurora replicas, managing and performance and scaling. They may say that you get a CloudWatch alert, like that your storage is full, what you can do that, how you can do the storage scaling, instance scaling, read scaling, something like that. And then rebooting a DB instance, this is very important. What kind of reboot options you have, how you can do a reboot, reboot with failover, and then deleting a DB instance. Can you delete a DB instance? How you can delete it? What is going to be effect if you have a red replica? This kind of things. Then definitely that delete protections. Then the backup and restore is a big part is there. So in the backup and restores, when you can take this automatic backup, what is the limitation, like 35 days. Manual backups, they might ask the questions like yes, customers want there is a kind of a audit requirement to put the backup for the 90 days. So this is kind of a low hanging fruit, you have to take it. This is the manual backups, and they might say that yes, they can club with CloudWatch, with Lambda, and then you can take a backup, something like that. So, and you have to also differentiate what is the difference between a backup and auto backup are snapshots and a backtrack in the recovery point of view. And the backtrack is very unique. So they might say, I got a questions, I believe that one of your junior database administrator, he has deleted some of the tables and customer wants it back. So, and they said, what you will do, are you going to with the minimum downtime? So backtracking is something easy option. Then cloning, definitely cloning is something very unique, and mostly the cloning question comes along with this cost cost factors and the minimal administrative effort for, purpose questions like that. Client wants to create some 5 instances, test instances. How we can do that with the limited effort and cost? So this is something you have to choose the cloning factor accordingly, and you please remember cloning is Aurora specific. Okay. Then PITR, yes, copying a snapshot, sharing a snapshot. This is, they will club with these things with either KMS, or you can say that they want to share some snapshot in a different zone, in a different account, and you cannot share a auto snapshot like automatic backup. You have to copy it to the manual. Okay. And then here comes the monitoring portions. Monitoring almost is same like RDS. Then little bit questions. I believe I got some questions about the performance insights, but I could not remember what are the actual questions. And definitely about RDS event notifications, that is also very important. Now, yeah, you have to understand the difference between Aurora MySQL versions and Aurora Postgre version. There is some difference. Like I remember there is for Aurora MySQL, if you want to enable this in transit SSL, there is for Postgre there is a DB cluster parameters, and for the MySQL there is a query. So there is some subtle differences you have to understand. And now comes to the security. Security again, it's almost clubbed with this RDS. The same thing is there. Then, but you have to understand that what are the security features, best practices. We just go through the best practices because this portion is very important. Now troubleshooting, you may get some question from the troubleshooting, so I'll encourage you to go through with these things, because I got some kind of I'll not say very tricky, but questions from that. Sometimes they will directly give you this, that some errors, that I got some errors, what happens, what wrongs. Okay. Upgrade is again upgrade. You may get the question from upgrade from the RDS or Aurora. I got a questions I got a question from upgrade specific things. So what happens with upgrade? Something like that, it failed. Okay. What else? So we discuss about the global database. If global database also, we this is serverless global database, then migrations, then cloning, then backtracking, then the backup and the architectures, red replica, and these are the features are very important. And another, there is some reliability features of Aurora, like storage auto repair, survivable cache warming, and the crash recovery. So I believe that's all from the Aurora point of view. Okay. Well, the next important database is Amazon DynamoDB. This is also a kind of in-house database, so there is a lot of emphasis on this particular exam, on this particular topic. So starting with the basic important steps, I got a questions like when we should use the DynamoDB. Like so this is not a full question, but part of the questions, like if like they try to understand, do you understand to the basic difference in between a relational database and the NoSQL database. And the second things comes with the usage pattern. Do you know the access pattern before creation of the table? Do you know the what should be the usage? Because in DynamoDB you should be knowing the what kind of a query will come to the DynamoDB. So that is also a kind of a hint. Now come to the DynamoDB using the console session. If I'll come this, the architecture is important, what kind of architecture they're using. The capacity is very important point. So if I'll go into the console, like what is the table name, what is the primary key, short key, then this secondary indexes, like in the what is the LSI, what is the GSI, and LSI GSI is super important. They will trick you that which scenario you should use the LSI GSI, query, scan, filter options, and then read and write capacity modes, like what is the provisions, what is on demand, what is the pros and cons, and what will happen, and then they will ask you what is how to determine this capacity units, and then throughput, and then there will become questions about the partitions. That how to, there is a simple query of the how you can get the partitions, and the partitions, once it is increased it won't decrease. So they will also ask you some questions. There is a variable load, unpredictable load. In that situation, what you can do, that would you use the provision mode, would you use this provision mode or on demand mode? Okay, so like the partition behavior also, there is a simple query, that to determine the number of partitions. So I am not going into that, but I didn't get any questions because it's not that tricky, but you might receive a question from there. The next things, I believe this, I got the questions from the exceptions and the errors. There is a lot of exceptions is there. What is the exceptions? So what you will do if you are using SDK, what you will do, you will get a throttling for the GSI, how you can deal with that. Like they will giving you that what is the, are you going to increase that capacity in the GSI level, provision capacity, or you are going to increase the table capacity and all these things. Then there will be questions about the backup and recovery. Like the mostly I got a questions like what are the if you restore DynamoDB, what are the settings is going to be restored, and what are the settings you have to manually set up. Like you have to manually set up the auto scaling policies, IAM policies, CloudWatch, Alarm, Steam, TTL. Having said that, encryptions is very important. The only the thing is that there is something called it's has, if you can see that the default KMS, AWS managed CMK, all are going to use, but there is something called encryption client. So this is, I believe you have to read it. Time to leave, I am not going into details. Time to leave is a very important chapter, very important portions of DynamoDB. Please go through that. Global table, yes, it is a multi-master active. What kind of consistency level is there in the global table? Please go with the stream. The stream enabled with this old new images. What is the purpose of the stream? Just note down this, the RPO and the RTO of the DynamoDB table. Sometimes it may come. The next thing is that I'll say about the access control. The access control, like mostly the fine-grained access control, like access control, like, okay, I'll try to show you here. Fine-grained access control is a definite topics and questions may come from there. I even got a questions from fine-grained access control. Mostly they will give you some policies which having some condition keys. They will say, yeah, this that many columns are there and I have to limit, restrict certain items, attributes. So how you can do that, and you have to choose certain things. So like leading keys, string equal, something like that. So please go through with that. This portion is not that difficult. The another portions, chapter is that from DAX. DAX is definitely yes. They will try to understand where we can get the DAX, when we'll get the use the DAX, when not, what kind of things like DAX is not good for write heavy things. So they will try to trick you that whether you will choose the write heavy or the read heavy or the compute portions, when to use DAX, when to use the ElastiCache, Redis. Like what is the benefit of the DAX, prevent hot partitions, eventual consistency, and what kind of approach, like item and query caches is there, what kind of approach is there, like write through approach or write around approach. And I believe I already discussed about the global tables. Global tables is very important, and the stream is also important. Sometimes they will say that how you can use the streams and send the data to some other systems like Kinesis and all these things. So that is all about DynamoDB. About our next database, that is Amazon Redshift. For Redshift, I believe you can start with this system and architecture overview. Like this is a columnar storage. What is the workload management? WLM is very important. Then mostly the questions will come when we should use the Redshift. What is the purpose of this? Heavy analytical jobs, not definitely for OLTP, and then like in a MPP, there is what is the leader node. There is it is up to 128 compute nodes, and then definitely the questions will come. Loading the sample data, how to load the sample data from the S3, and then questions from the migrations. The migration is a big part of it. Like from the Oracle to Redshift or MySQL to Redshift. How we can migrate, we can use actually for the Redshift itself, we'll use the SCT extractors, that is also some kind of extract agent from SCT, and we can use this copy option through the S3. And then just look into is this the Redshift federated query, the star schema, the data distributions, like you are having the 4 type of data distribution, even, all, key, and auto. The Redshift vacuum is also very important. Like what is the purpose of the vacuum? They might ask you the some scenario and giving the multiple options. The compressions, the Redshift compressions, and then the one definite thing is about that the Redshift short key. You know that there is virtually no index concept in the Redshift, so short key is very important. And then backup and recovery, this cross region replications is important. And then I also got a question from this backup and recovery cross region replication, how it happens. And then the very important thing is about the loggings, Redshift loggings. Like you are having the audit logs, 3 different kind of logs: connection logs, user activity logs, and there is also STL tables. And another thing, I got a question in my like a test sample paper, like when to use Redshift, when to use Athena and QuickSites. Like Redshift is for serious kind of actions. If you have kind of a simple kind of query actions, you might use this for the CRM option, you might use the Athena or QuickSites. So just kind of differentiations. I also received a error message from during the copy options, whether they don't have the privilege in the S3 level or to copy or to get these things. So just you have to understand where you can get the error. You might have some kind of privilege issue. I am authorizations is not present. So mostly this kind of hardly there will be a questions of 4 to 5. I believe I might receive less things about Redshift, maybe 3 to 5 questions. Okay, on the backup and restores, I believe I definitely received the questions about the cross-region snapshot and snapshot copy grant. This is very, very important. About the scaling, like elastic resize, classic resize. I also receive a questions from the Redshift concurrency scaling. Like for encryptions, just go through this API. It is using this SIG-v4. We can also use the envelope encryption for the Redshifts. VPC, enhanced VPC routing, I didn't get any question, but definitely questions come from the enhanced VPC routing. This is unique for the Redshift things when you don't want to use the internet. I already discussed about this monitoring. I believe that's all. You can also just go through the Aqua, like accelerator, cache, it's closer to S3. So that's all about Redshift. The next things we'll go through with this ElastiCache. Okay, ElastiCache, I'll say you can just go through the memcached, just see the difference of the memcached and the Redis, but mostly questions nowadays is coming from the Redis. In the Redis mode, I'll not go into the very details. Is when the cluster mode is disabled, when it is enabled, what is sharding, these kind of things. Mostly the questions will come from this kind of thing. And then for the backup restore, questions comes from the warm start and new clusters, that is the preload data, how you can do the scalings, what kind of scalings is there when the cluster mode is disabled and the cluster mode is enabled. And then global data store, what is that? And then there is something questions config endpoint, when you have to use the reserve memory percentage 25%. I have this particular parameters, and what is this uses comes a lot. And just the difference for the and that there is one very popular use case which refers to Redshift, that is the gaming leaderboard. Mostly the Redshift gaming leaderboard is one of the things. It comes multiple times. Okay, now next thing I'll discuss about the Neptune, which is very important. At least I never expected that many questions from the Neptune side, but yes, there were many questions come from the Neptune. Okay, Neptune, this is the same architecture like Aurora. There is you have to use the loader endpoints. I did not have much questions from the workbooks, but you can, yes, there is a Jupyter workbooks which use the SageMaker. Another thing I'll say, I forgot about the other RDS. You have to know what is RPO and RTO, because there are questions will come that directly specifying this. RPO is 5 minutes, RTO is half an hour, 60 minutes, RPO is something. So you have to understand that what is the significance of the RPO and RTO, and which cases, like snapshot, backup restores, red replica, multi-region, what should be the RPO and RTO. Okay, scaling for Neptune, like vertical scaling, horizontal scaling. Cloning, this is kind of the same cloning as Aurora. Security. Monitoring, what is the health check API, how you can put the audit logs, maybe the if there is 100 MBs there, you have to, it is automatically rotates. for the Neptune, few things will come. There is a two query language. What is Gremlin, Tinkerpops, which using this. That is Sparkle, and one is which using okay, there is a two thing is that two type of querying in Neptune. One is Gremlin, one is Sparkle. Okay, another important thing is that how we can connect to the Gremlin console. You can know that there is something called configuration files, and what is there in the configuration file. Another thing is very important, there is a IAM credentials. You have to put this environment files, and how you can connect to the Gremlin console. So these questions, sometimes if you don't practice it, it will you'll just become spellbound to answer it, because you don't know what is there and not. So just go through with that, just try to connect once with the Gremlin console, and then we'll get to know what kind of details will be required for things. Okay, streams, I believe this the last thing you just try to know the streams. This is same kind of things as a DynamoDB. Now I am going to discuss about some kind of the study required for the migrations questions. This is mostly they will the migrations will come for whether it is offline migrations or online migrations. They will give you a hint that they want the minimum downtime. Where when it's a minimum downtime, it will be more like DMS or SCT. If it is a downtime, then you can use kind of like MongoDB, MongoDB stores, normal snapshot, backup recovery. So they will give you enough hint. Sometimes it's happen, even if it is they will say that it's a petabyte or some kind of 100 terabytes, 200 terabytes, and then I am having 1G networks. So you can say that you cannot really send through the internet. So you have to use some kind of snowball device, if it is a petabyte snowmobile device kind of things. Now the most of the migration tools, if it is offline, like MongoDB, MySQL dump, PG dump, some kind of things, or mostly the DMS and the SCT. Now DMS, that what is the things, mostly that we'll use the DMS. This is a data migration service. Then it's most supports the homogeneous and heterogeneous, and this is also, there is a 3 mode is there. We can just migrate this the existing steps. Then we have to do with this CDC, that is change data capture on only the CDC, and there will be something, I am not going into the technicalities of the DMS. I believe that if you are preparing for this exam, you all know. Then the SCT is there. Mostly they use for the schema conversion tools. Mostly we can use for the schema conversions and for changing in the codes, like I am doing from Oracle to Postgre, something it will automatically change the codes and all these things, and it will give you maybe a code analysis report. What are the things automatically converted, what are the things is not converted, what are the things is not supported, which is the things I have to manually do. Yes, for some of the applications, like we can definitely use this SCT migration agents. So this will also copy the object tables for things. Mostly we'll use this for it's called the SCT extractors. So it will extract and it will copy through the S3. Mostly we'll use for Redshift purposes. Now as I said, this migrations questions are quite straightforward, and they will give you enough hint whether you will use that full load CDC or the full load plus CDC. And you can definitely get some trick questions like validations, pre-validations on the DMS, migrating large tables, migrating tables with the lobs. These are the things definitely will come, like for the lobs, what are the techniques for using the lobs, like whether you are using is how many lob sizes is there, for what is the inline lob mode, full lob mode. This kind of question definitely will come. It come from the monitoring of the DMS, like what are the logs available, task logs, CloudWatch, CloudTrail. How you can get the enable debugging, just know the control tables, what are the control tables is there. I believe this is sometimes questions may ask that what is the base cases, how the DMS data transfer will be faster, like if you what kind of 2 VPCs, 1 VPCs, multiple VPC, which region, all this kind of stuffs. That's it about the DMS. The next things I believe I'll just try to discuss about the little bit about some of the migrations, like try to practice some of the migrations in the exam readiness. So they mention about this kind of online and offline migrations, and because questions may come about some of the columns also, like like if you are doing from Oracle to Postgre, what will happen with the null column, what will happen with the integer, big integer, small integer, this kind of stuff. They are a little bit more technical, but at least if you do it, if you read it once, practice as well, and you get to know where it's talking about. Definitely questions can come on the what are the you got some kind of things in the analysis tool in the SCT that some of the things are not being done, so that cannot be converted, or when you are actually converted you will get some kind of issues, what we should do. Okay, the last things I'm just going to discuss about the loggings, because the loggings is you will get the loggings and auditing. You'll definitely get some questions about the loggings, like what kind of logs for CloudWatch logs, what is the different loggings about the Oracle, Aurora, DynamoDB, DocumentDB, others, Redshifts, and then definitely clubbing with now comes to the cloud formation techniques. Cloud formations, definitely it's a for if you want to automate, put in a code into the text, you have to use the tool, and there are questions will come from there. How we can put in a stack set, what is the chain set is there, and how, and then how you can use this SSM with the cloud formations, how we can with this secrets manager with the cloud formations, how we can it will ask you that what is the default mode, like suppose somebody has mistakenly delete the cloud formation and my all objects got deleted, how we can protect. But it will be all they will concentrate on the cloud formations for RDS purposes. So you have to read everything from the RDS purposes, and then questions will come from there. I could not remember anything else for cloud formations, because as for me the cloud formation questions are very straightforward. Now you may get some kind of there are some questions you may get from the VPC subnets security groups. They're very basics, that what kind of security groups we need be required for enhancing the security, whether I should use this private subnet, public subnets, then whether I should send to the internet or using the direct connects. I'll say it's quite straightforward, and you can nail it. Okay, so this portion is finished. It's a very long discussions. So the last things about the exam tips and the personal experience. Now this is little interesting. I have been preparing for course for a while. The two reasons that it's been delayed. The first reason is the pandemic itself, because all the test centers was closed. So I was, even though I even didn't know that they are open or not, even though I was not very much convinced that I should go to the test centers and get a test, 3 hours sit there in a temperature AC room with other candidates. So at the last I chose the VUE, this proctor exam from my home. Now this proctor exam is quite unique. I am the I first time I experienced this one, because you have to sit in an empty room, they will check everything, the system requirements, then you have to show through your webcam whether anybody is around, any paper is there, all these stuffs. Then it will be always monitored through a webcam. And the funny part is that you understand, a 3-hour exam, you have to always make an eye contact with the webcam. So I had an instance where I was doing some exam, maybe I was thinking something about the one answer, and immediately there is a chat window popped up, and they said, no, your eye contact got lost, you cannot do that. So I find this little bit irritating, because entirely it looks like I was concentrating more on this eye contact rather than the questions. Luckily I passed this exam, but if you are not very much experience with that, is definitely annoying. Another part is that in the real exams you will get a pen and pencil and paper to do the short notes and all those things, but for the VUE proctor exams it's totally no. You can, there is a whiteboard is there, it's like a kind of Wattpad, so you can write down your things. But I find out the papers, the writable portion is so less, I struggle with that. So I'll definitely encourage you guys to practice before you can think about the proctor level exams. Okay, this exam is quite I can say technical. At least the right approach would be for this kind of, I believe, any kind of specialty or professional exam, that you have to pick the wrong answer, because most of the times you are not sure of the right answer. So you have to pick the right or wrong answers, and then kind of elimination. So at least there are n numbers of questions where I am not sure about the answers, and it mostly happens with the questions with having 2 or 3 right answers you have to provide. So you have to practice little bit that way. Every time you cannot choose the right answer, because I was little bit initially I was trying to choose the right answers, then I understood this is not a right approach for this kind of exams. So that's it. Anything else? Yes, unlike other AWS exam, the sample exam, like the test exam, which costs $40, or if you have prior exams, its cost comes free. That exam comes very handy for me. I had always the impression that AWS test exams are it's quite easy compared to the actual exam, but not for this exam. The questions levels, question standards are at par, and even I got at least 3 or 4 questions same to same in the real exam, or at least very similar. I'll not say same to same, at least very similar in the real exam. So guys, I took the sample test at least 1 week ago, where I scored little bit less than the actual pass mark, that is 75%, but I had the very solid idea of how the questions may come, and then I really little bit brush up on some of the weakest portions, and then I able to pass it to the actual exam. So that is, guys, yeah, this exam you have to be little bit hands-on. If you are a database professional or a DBA, you have to that what are the database pros and cons, what are the database connection things, and try to if you are not AWS experienced, just do some kind of hands-on. Do all this kind of hands-on experience, things are there in the AWS. Create database, do the restore backups, some kind of queries, whatever, blah blah, and this will definitely help. Otherwise, cracking this exam is really difficult. So guys, thanks for watching this long video. Hopefully you can get some kind of ideas and some kind of help by seeing this video. Okay, so thank you. I'm wishing you a very good luck for your forthcoming database specialty exam. Thank you.